Just what are the differences in preparing for this South Carolina team compared to the last two, especially with their ability to shoot the three-point shot?
Well, you just answered half the question. Obviously, they don't have the players that they had last year. They lost a lot, but South Carolina just reloads. Those players that they have played their roles last year, and some were starters. They just put next man up, and they do shoot the three ball. They have transfers, pow-pows, leading them in scoring. So you just have to hope they miss some of those, because we have our hands full with Cardoza being as tall as she is. We don't have anybody that can match that size.
Coach, right here, I mean, obviously, he just mentioned kind of the fanfare around this game, the excitement, the growth of the game this provides, but how much of a challenge has it been for you all to kind of keep the focus on yourself inside that locker room to make sure you go out and execute your game plan, outside of all the noise that this game brings?
I don't think it's been a distraction at all. I think it's been welcomed. I think it's exciting. We get in the film room, we work, we talk, we show them things on the floor. We'll do the same thing today. Our work is not done. We will have a lot of work to do today. And then tomorrow we'll have our shoot around and put in our last minute things that we work on the day of the game. But I don't think fanfare is anything that affects my team. They are used to big crowds. South Carolina's used to big crowds. You're looking at a lot of basketball history in this building tomorrow. And somebody texted me last night and was telling me that, and I said, yeah, you tend to forget the history of the game, and yet we're all still fairly young and coaching and playing.
Kim, last year you talked about, it was South Carolina and then everyone else in the SEC. Does winning a national championship, does that close the gap with you guys with them, or what's your thoughts?
I don't really look at it that way. I look at it as South Carolina has not been beaten. South Carolina is as good, in my opinion, as they were last year with new players. No one seems to have found the formula to beat them. And just like we will try to do the same thing a lot of teams do, and that's try to upset them. We're the underdog. I love underdog roles. And I know that it'll be one heck of an atmosphere, and it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for South Carolina. It's going to be good for the SEC, and overall good for women's basketball.
They're so multiple and deep. Where do you start in your scout?
You start with the 5 starters, and then if they sub or there's foul trouble, you got to rotate people on different people. Certainly if you look at our roster and their roster, they seem to play a lot more players. But then if you really break it down, is 5 minutes playing more players? Is 2 minutes playing more players? I think by this stage of the season, I think you're probably down to your main players, and you can pretty much look at that on a stat sheet, who's going to play unless they're in foul trouble.
Coach, how far deep into your bench do you anticipate going tomorrow night?
Yeah, I just answered that. Reed, it's depending on foul trouble, depending on who gets fatigued, if they need a breather. I'm little by little becoming more confident going 8. I'm little by little doing that. But I've got 5. How many timeouts I'm going to use? I'll use them if I have to. I used to say, you got 5 fouls, make sure you use all of them. Well, I've got timeouts. If we get fatigued, I'll just call those timeouts. I don't like to, but maybe I have to sometimes.
And defensively, you mentioned your work in progress all throughout the season. Where are y'all defensively? Where do you stand?
We're better. We're better, but we're not anywhere near where we can get to. We're better on helping each other. We're better on understanding ball line. We're better on understanding when do I really need to help and recover. And again, I'd say it, that was because we were all over the place in non-conference. You had this player out for a while, this one out for a while, and we were never together for long periods of time. And I think now that we have been, I'm seeing improvement. You may not see it. I still don't like the fact that we give up a lot of points, but we may be a team where I need to be realistic and say, well, that may just be our identity, who we are. And I need to quit harping on that. I need to watch in the film room and say, that was just a good shot. And we did pretty good defensively there.
Kim, obviously, they won a national championship 2 years ago. You won last year, but you haven't beaten
Go
them.
SEC, right?
Well, very, very good for the SEC, yes. But LSU hasn't beaten them in a long time. Is it a rivalry in the classic sense, or do you need to beat them to make it a rivalry? How do you feel about it?
Ooh. With the SEC, who is our rival? Back in the day when I was growing up, Tulane was our rival. LSU and Tulane. With all the realignment in conferences, I mean, really, who is LSU's rival? I mean, I know Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, Alabama. Who is ours? Is it A&M? I don't know. I don't look at it that way. I've played South Carolina when I was at Baylor. For the program, if you're asking about the program not beating them X number of times, I don't know what it is. The program would be a good thing, but it's not going to be, Scott, the end all. If we beat them, life goes on. If we lose, life goes on. There are bigger games down the road for South Carolina and for LSU. I view this game as a tremendous challenge, a tremendous opportunity, and it is great for LSU because I've never had a college game day that I've been a part of, and I think that's the coolest thing ever.
Kim, to your point that it's going to be an incredible atmosphere, we are seeing that more and more in women's basketball across the country. Last weekend, I don't know if you saw a highlight of this because you were busy with your own game, but Caitlin Clark got taken out by a fan who was rushing the floor. And I wondered, as the women's game grows in popularity, do you think we need more security? Have you ever worried that you were going to be part of a court storm one way or another?
Well, didn't South Carolina men just storm the court when they beat Kentucky?
I think so. It's really common in the men's game.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, and I don't know. Maybe I've coached, and there's been storming of the court, but it doesn't just jump out at me. I'd love for it to be storming of the court when we win national championships. That would be fun, but to do it for a game, I don't really know if I've ever been a part of that. Probably on the road, maybe, when I was coaching at Baylor. If I think back long and hard, maybe at Texas Tech one time when I had the 40-0 team prior to going 40-0. But gosh, I'd have to dig deep to think about all that. It wouldn't matter. How much security do you have at a football game and you can't hold them back, right? I mean, one guy's going to hold how many people back? How many students? I mean, it's not going to matter. I've learned that we can line them up like a bunch of soldiers around there, and at the end of the day, you're outnumbered.
You mentioned Pow Pow being one of the best three-point shooting guards in the country. Last year, Alexis Morris was the one that really clamped down on your best shooters. Do you feel like Flage, especially after Alabama, what she did against Nye, that's more her role this year?
I don't think it's her role. I think it's been given to her somewhat because of, if you look at the three perimeter players that get the most minutes, she has the most experience in this system. I think that she's certainly a different kind of player than Alexis is, but Flage is good with it. She gets frustrated at herself, and what we have to really realize, look at my perimeter. Freshman, sophomore, new player. Angel, older, Morrow, new player. And I have to tell myself that sometimes. I have to make sure I'm fair with Flage. She got a lot of minutes as a freshman because we didn't have the depth and we were building the program. She was our first really All-American to sign out of high school. And so sometimes I have to make sure that we don't get frustrated with her defensively because we don't want her role to change. Flage has a joy about her when she plays, and I want her to always maintain that joy.
Looked like they let them play in the Arkansas game. Did you like that?
I didn't find it any, I didn't find it any different, Michael. It's going to be physical. I mean, it's supposed to be a non-contact sport when I got introduced to this game, right? What happened to that?
You talked about game day being here. What does that mean as far as the investment in women's sports and spotlighting it once again?
Well, I think it sends a message to the LSU administration. You're getting a return on your investment. What's your investment? Your investment is hiring a staff, paying a staff good, selling season tickets, selling out this arena. I don't know much about StubHub and all that, but I understand the tickets are off the charts expensive. All that means a great deal. And as an administrator, Scott needs to poke his chest out, and he needs to say, I'm doing right. I'm doing right by females, and I'm doing right by this institution.
Got time for a couple more questions in here.
Coach, you seem to go battle against South Carolina for recruits, at least a few a year. Is there any ramifications in this game, or is that totally separate?
I can't answer that for recruits, but we're all battling each other. South Carolina is not the only people we go against, and in this business you're going to win some of those battles and you're going to lose some of them. And the crazy thing is you never know why sometimes a recruit chooses a school. Sometimes it's close to home, sometimes it's I like best players are on the team, sometimes it's an opening and I can step in there and play quickly. It's just good now, after 3 years of being here, that we can be a part of that conversation. Now, I don't like just, I'm in her top 5. I don't want to go chase a wild goose. I want a legit shot at you. And I think that as we grow as a staff, I don't care about numbers in front of kids' names. I mean, you all know this. There's so many overrated kids out there, and you sit and you watch those that don't get a number in front of their name, and they end up having great careers. I'm more into let's do our homework, let's see who we like, and let's go after them, and let's quickly eliminate those that we really don't have a shot at. But I guess it could in recruiting, but I don't leave a floor thinking, gosh, we got to win this game to get that recruit. I don't think any coach does that.
Hey, Coach. With this being a game that everyone is looking forward to, what are you expecting from the fans tomorrow?
From the who?
Fans.
I don't know. It's I don't know how good or bad our fans are. I know they love us, so it's probably going to be pretty loud. I think that the students will be lined up. I think that y'all watched it. Y'all see it. I don't get to see it. I'm working. So you probably can answer that, because I'm proud that we've sold out this arena long ago, and I'm proud that the tickets are hard to come by and that they're expensive now. I'm proud that we're relevant, defending national champions. I mean, check off all the lists. I can check it all off. And yet, you're never satisfied. You're always grinding. You're always working. You don't really get to smell the roses until you retire. And we can't do what we do without fans. The fans had to embrace the staff, embrace this program before we could go out and sell a program. And they did it before we won that national championship.
Finish up with Jacques.
Coach, last year when you played him, it seemed like Angel used that as a catalyst to motivate her the remainder of the season as you won the title. She referenced it a lot. I should have played better against South Carolina. Where's the line between motivation and doing too much, maybe, this time around for her?
I'm sure she'll want to do extremely well. Who doesn't? If you lose, I hope it is motivation. If you win, I hope it's motivation. I hope every day they come to practice, it's motivation to win. And each kid is different. Each kid is motivated by something different. And it's our job, or my job as a leader in that locker room, to give them all the information you can give them. Just give it to them. Don't overcoach. It's just one game. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a game where you're going to see some talent on the floor. And I've always said this. In close games, if it should be a close game, I'm not out-coaching Dawn. Dawn's not going to out-coach me. It's going to be ballers out there making plays. And that'll be fun for all of us to see.